السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم يأن للذين آمنوا أن تخشع قلوبهم لذكر الله وما نزل من الحق ولا يكونوا كالذين أوتوا الكتاب من قبل فطال عليهم الأمد فقست قلوبهم وكثير منهم فاسقون. اعلموا أن الله يحيي الأرض بعد موتها قد بينا لكم الآيات لعلكم تعقلون. إن المصدقين والمصدقات وأقرضوا الله قرضا حسنا يضاعف لهم ولهم أجر كريم. والذين بالله ورسله أولئك هم الصديقون والشهداء عند ربهم لهم أجرهم ونورهم. والذين كفروا وكذبوا بآياتنا أولئك أصحاب الجحيم. اعلموا أنما الحياة الدنيا لعب ولهو وزينة وتفاخر بينكم وتكاثر في الأموال والأولاد كمثل غيث أعجب الكفار نباته ثم يهيج فتراه مصفرا ثم يكون حطاما وفي الآخرة عذاب شديد ومغفرة من الله ورضوان وما الحياة الدنيا إلا متاع الغرور. سابقوا إلى مغفرة من ربكم وجنة عرضها كعرض السماء والأرض أعدت للذين آمنوا بالله ورسله ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم. ما أصاب من مصيبة في الأرض ولا في أنفسكم إلا في كتاب من قبل أن نبرأها إن ذلك على الله يسير. لكي لا تأسوا على ما فاتكم ولا تفرحوا بما آتاكم والله لا يحب كل كل مختال فخور الذين يبخلون ويأمرون الناس بالبخل ومن يتول فإن الله هو الغني الحميد صدق الله العظيم.
تكبير تكبير تكبير.
MashaAllah, very beautiful recitation by Sheikh Imam Nuh Kokab. So, for anybody who doesn't know, Imam Nuh Kokab was born and raised in Fujairah, UAE, the Imarat. He started studying Quran and Tajweed with his father, Sheikh Abdul Hassan Kokab, at an early age. He has obtained multiple ijazahs in narration of Hafs, and Asim, and studied and completed different courses in Aqidah and Fiqh from Sheikh Dr. Farhan Al-Anizi and other local scholars in Dubai. He has won several Quran memorization and best recitation competitions from around the world, leading in first place. Imam Nuh served as a full-time Imam and Quran teacher at Masjid Isa ibn Maryam, as well as the Quran and Tajweed teacher at Wellspring Schools in New York for over 5 years. Currently, he is serving as an Imam at Jesus Son of Mary Center. And he is the current Imam at Jesus Son of Mary Center here in Tampa. They are a new masjid that is located in Carrollwood, so inshallah, check out their programs. Jazakallah khair. Next, we're introducing our keynote speaker, Dr. Shadee Elmasry. He's here all the way from New Jersey. Dr. Shadee Elmasry was born and raised in New Jersey. He began studying the traditional sciences rigorously at the age of 18, after a summer in Fez, Morocco. Since then, he has studied all over the world, including Halal, Yemen, Mecca, Medina, Saudi, London, the UK, Qaahira, Egypt, and New Jersey, of course, in the US, under several luminaries of our time. He's a great speaker, and he is the head of Safina Society, and they offer all kinds of courses online, which is offering access to courses online. They have a podcast as well. Without further ado, I'll hand it off to Dr. Shadee.
Bismillah. Thank you very much, Jihad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Allahumma salli salatan kamila wa sallim salaman tamman ala Sayyidina Muhammad alladhi tanhallu bihi al-uqad wa tanfaridu bihi al-kurab وتقضى به الحوائج وتنال به الرغائب وحسن الخواتم ويستسقى الغمام بوجه الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الطب القلوب ودوائها وعافية الأبدان وشفائها ونور الأبصار وضيائها وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. All right, so first of all, thank you to the organizers and actually the individual who started this thing and kept inviting me over. Fortunately, she's not with us anymore in terms of being in Florida. She moved to Michigan. But her and her crew and her group were pretty persistent, alhamdulillah, that we're able to make this happen. And I pray and hope that we have a great evening together, talking about things. We'll hear from you. I don't know if there's a mic that we'll be passing around after Maghrib. So I usually like the interactive portion more even than the lecture portion. So hopefully after our Maghrib prayer, which I think is at 8:05, then we could pass the mic around and we could actually talk and everyone could talk back and forth. And even the kids, they want to bring something out. So when we talk here, there are kids here, there's a diverse audience here. So I'm gonna, and I always I'm sort of a little bit of an anti-intellectual, to be honest with you. I don't like highfalutin language that nobody understands, which I consider as a bunch of showing off. I spent 10 years in academia, taught at Yale, did the whole gamut, and really felt so stifled and so limited. All right, so limited by that type of highfalutin intellectualism that has no benefit and no value. So we're going to do is, the topic, I don't know if the topic is up here, but the topic was Islam and secularism, which already has taken us into the abstract. So what do we mean by secularism? So let me begin with a question. Has anyone here ever felt disconnected? Feel like, do I belong in this world? Like, I feel like I'm the odd one out. And I can tell you for myself, having grown up in Toms River in New Jersey, there were not a lot of Egyptians and Muslims around. Not a lot of Pakistanis and Muslims around. Then you went to Sunday school and you learned your heritage, right? And then you go to the homeland and that's a whole other world. You felt totally disconnected. There was no such thing as diversity back in the day. That word came up later on, okay? And I remember one time saying to myself that, okay, we got Islam, and Islam is set way back in the 7th century. And it's the desert, and it's camels, and it's other things like that. And here I am, fast forward 1400 years, halfway across the world, and I was sitting there, watching Oprah Winfrey and Michael Jordan have an interview. I thought to myself, it's like there's no connection here. There's absolutely no connection between the world that I live in and this other world, which is Islam. So, well, that happens oftentimes for immigrants, but not just that. We didn't immigrate, people just didn't immigrate from worlds. Modernity itself, the world changed so quickly within a span of 200-300 years that it's not just you who feel disconnected, everyone in the world feels disconnected. Everyone in some way, shape, and form feels disconnected. I can tell you Jews feel disconnected. Their law is as foreign as anything else. I could tell you people from the subcontinent, from Asia, they feel disconnected. Everyone feels some degree of being disconnected. Which is what happens when you mix everyone together in the world. And everything is changing. Technology is changing so quickly. Even the most progressive people in the world. I mean, who or what is the most progressive set of ideas in the world? And who are the people upholding those ideas? They're also disconnected from the past, right? Like they might be on the cutting edge today and getting support and getting all sorts of, support from brands, corporations, whatever, Hollywood, but they're disconnected from the rest of the country. They're disconnected from history. A lot of the movements that are popular today are movements that there's no historical precedent for. You got to really dig to develop a history. You're on your own. You're doing something that nobody's ever done before. So everyone has a degree of disconnection. And why is it that in the moral sense, a lot of people are disconnected? It's that there's no one fixed set of ideas that everyone's convinced of. There's no one set of ideas that everyone is convinced of. Everyone's ideas today, it's promoted to bring up your own idea, or to come out with your own set of identity, or come out with your own set of what you believe is real. Now, what we believe is true as Muslims relies on three things. The first sources of truth for us is number one, observation. Number two, reason. And number three, transmission. These are the three things that we believe in, that these are sources of truth. So your observation is what we have as science. Okay. What we have as science is what you can observe, anything that you can put together in an experiment. What goes up must come down. Anything that you can demonstrate for us. Something we can see and feel. That's a source of truth for us. Okay. The second source, let's see if it fits. The second source is our intellect. So in order to ground ourselves and not feel like we're floating in the wind, okay, we need to ground ourselves on what we believe is true. So the second source of truth is the intellect. Now, what does the intellect lead us to? The intellect, as far as we're concerned as Muslims, when in the realm of faith and the realm of belief. The intellect leads to the existence of the Creator. Right? Very simply. Doesn't tell us much about the Creator, but it tells us that we were made. Well, what's the proof of that? Well, first of all, anything that is constantly in change, increasing, decreasing, must have had a beginning at some point in time. This is a principle, right? Anything that, what's the proof of that? What is infinity plus 1? It's a non-number. You can't add or subtract to infinity. Infinity is never, no beginning, no end. That's what infinity is. If you can add or subtract to an infinity, then it's not infinity, right? So if you can add or subtract to anything, then that thing has a beginning. And we're seeing addition and subtraction from the world all the time. People die, people are born. A new day comes. Yesterday is gone. Things are transforming constantly. So there's constant flux in the world that we live in. Therefore, this world had a beginning. Right? It had a beginning. Well, from the standpoint of astronomy and physics, we know this world had a beginning, right? Which we call the Big Bang. How, as they measured the stars, they realized over time that the stars are constantly expanding. Therefore, they work themselves backwards. If the stars are always expanding, if you work backwards, then eventually there was a starting point. So anything that changes must have a beginning. Now, a thing cannot come into existence by itself. Nothing can create itself. Well, why can't a thing create itself? It's because it would preclude that it existed and not existed at the same time. So if the verb is create, then you can't be both the subject and the object. Right? You cannot create yourself. So if we got a world that it has a beginning, we've agreed to that. It can't create itself, we've agreed to that. There is only one other possibility which becomes binding upon us, which is the existence of something outside the rules of this world, which is what we call a creator, philosophically defined as God with a capital G, meaning he exists necessarily and he does not share our laws of existence. He exists beyond our laws of existence, of matter, time, cause and effect. That's what we call a transcendent being who necessarily exists. Okay. This is our rational underpinning for why we believe in a creator. Furthermore, there are other attributes that you have to discern or read into the creator. Like what? Like knowledge. I mean, this world is created with an immense amount of knowledge. You can't look at this world and the human being and nature and not assume that no knowledge went into this. The human eye, for example, cannot exist in pieces. You can't. It's not like a building block that you can put one on top of the other. Half of an eye is useless. 10% of the components of 90% of the components of your eye. If you lost 10% of the components of your eye, you don't lose 10% of your vision. You lose all of your vision. This is called complexity. Okay. If a bird's wing, for example, if the bird needs the entire wing to fly, this is not something that gradually came about, right? But you could say, it gradually came about. It didn't gradually come about. It needs the whole wing. Half of a wing is a burden. You can't fly with half a wing. It's extra weight. It's completely useless. So this is what we call complexity, all right? You take an example of a pen like this. It consists of this part that holds it, the ink, and the part that holds the ink. If you take out one of these parts, 1/3, you don't get a loss of 1/3 of writing. You get a loss of the whole thing, right? That's what we call complexity. And complexity means all the parts have to come together at once in order for this thing to work. And when you see complexity, you know that there was intelligence, that there was knowledge. Okay? You know that there was intelligence and knowledge. And we see that in the world. Everything that exists with complexity and knowledge. Let me give you another example. If we were to say hypothetically that things came into being for the sake of their own survival, just survival of the fittest, then what is the function of stripes on a zebra? When The plains of Africa are beige. The last thing you want is a striped black and white object. It doesn't help at all, does not help at all in avoiding getting eaten. What would help is being beige, right? Now, if you're the lion, you don't need to be beige. Why do you need to be beige? You're the predator. You can hide behind a bush. But if you ask yourself, why is the zebra black and white? The answer is actually brilliant. The answer points to that the zebra, when it was created with in mind that it's going to exist in a group. And the eyesight of the lion has its own issues. The lion does not have great eyesight. So when zebras are all together, striped all together, the lion does not see anything except the blob. He cannot distinguish between the two. So what this points to is that not only there's knowledge, there's oneness in the creation. So the creator of the eyesight of the lion and the stripes of the zebra are all taken into account. Now, how would the zebra know that the lion's eyesight is weak in this respect? That a lion, when he sees a bunch of zebra together, gets dizzy, can't see any difference between them. All he sees is a bunch of stripes. How would a zebra know this? So the creation, not only does it indicate knowledge, it indicates that the creator is one. I'll give you another example. If you were to study cell biology or an atom, and you look at the design of an atom, which is pretty much supposed to be like the smallest particle, it's 90% empty, right? The atom is 90% empty. It consists of something at the center, and things that, based on the different atom, different things that float around the atom, right? That is the smallest piece. That's the model by which this whole world is made. It's made of that component. An atom, which is 90% empty, that has a nucleus in the middle, and things floating around it. All right, now zoom out to the biggest thing that we can look at and study is our solar system. What is the model of the solar system? It's the exact same model. It's the exact same model, where you have a central star attracting to it, and it's 90% empty space, and you have all the planets roaming around it. You got the same exact model. That means the artist who made this is definitely the artist who made this. There's no distinction between them. So in nature, everything fits to the point that you must say there's the same maker. Whereas we're the opposite. I could give you this book, for example, has nothing to do with this microphone. There's no connection at all. Why? They have different makers. So the publisher of this book and the maker of this microphone, they don't even know each other. So there's no connection. But if I tell you that I got an iPad, and I got an iPhone, and I got a MacBook, and if I download something to one cloud here, it's going to upload to all my other clouds. Well, what does that tell you? They have the same maker. So when things fit perfectly together, they have the same maker. We're telling you this so that you realize we have to stop floating in the wind, and we got to pin ourselves down to some beliefs. Otherwise, we get emotional distress. Emotional distress is, I don't know where I'm going in life. I don't even know what life is. No. Our Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has allowed us to use our brain and pin down our beliefs. So I know that certain things are unshakable. Other things we can discuss. Secondly, look at the way that things that are completely far apart from each other, how they're interconnected, and how perfectly efficient this system is. So a gazelle eats a leaf, and then the gazelle defecates. And that defecation goes into the soil. That soil, that defecation benefits the soil. Not all, didn't have to be that way. That defecation benefits the soil. That soil rejuvenates to produce more trees and more leaves for the gazelle to eat again, right? They're in a perfect cycle. Look at the water in our world. What do these trees do? They pull out the water. They pull water from the bottom of the earth. That's what the best trees do. They pull water from the earth. It's not just that water benefits trees. Trees pull water, right, from the roots. Well, what happens? These form rivulets and form streams, which get bigger bodies of water and bigger bodies of water. And what happens to that? That water evaporates into the sky. That water is not clean. It's not clean. It's dirty water. That dirty water goes up into the sky, and you look up in the sky, you don't see it. This is happening at such a micro level. But what is also happening, it's getting purified in the sky. You know how hard it is to purify water? Yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our Creator, has created a purification system that you don't even see. It's transparent. That water then evaporates, goes up in the sky, gets purified, settles in clouds. That cloud moves where there's no water and rains there. This system is genius. And who caused that communication? We say the revelation, God's revelation to animals, is the instinct He put inside of them. And the revelation to nature is simply what they do. All right, let's look at trees. Sunlight comes down. What does a tree produce for us? Through photosynthesis. Any of the kids in the 6th grade know? It produces oxygen. Okay? What do we intake? Oxygen. What do trees need? CO2, right? What do we exhale? CO2. The maker of both is the same maker. The maker of the tree and the maker of the human being is got to be the same. Now, if anybody believes that all of this genius expertise, that people spend their lifetime studying this stuff in universities, they spend their entire life studying this stuff in the university. You think this is going to be an accident? I've seen accidents. We've all seen accidents on the highways. They're not pretty and they're not useful. Accidents do not produce form nor function. There's two things in the universe. There's form and there's function. Some people are interested in the form and how it fits together like perfect engineering. Other people are interested in the form, the function and the form. The form is the beauty. That God is an amazing creator who's a bold artist as well. Who would have ever thought to make a neon little frog? And you go to Amazon and you see little neon frogs with fluorescent red dots on them. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a bold artist. People think of religious people that are so conservative and uptight. That's a religious person who doesn't understand his creator. Look at your creator. He's extremely bold in his artistry. And so what's the proof now that this creator is creating on purpose? Here's an amazing thing to think about. That Allah is creating on purpose. He's created a creator who does something on purpose. He signs his work. Right? A factory machine does not sign its work. So this bottle of water, the company makes hundreds a day, I'm sure. This little Staples pad. Okay, they're all the same. Right? They're all the same. Human beings, when we make stuff, it's all the same. Right? Unless you're an artist who's signing your work. How does Allah sign your work? Every one of you's iris is different. Every one of y'all's thumbprint is different. Every snowflake is a different shape. And I've heard, I haven't verified this. I don't know if anyone can verify this. But every grain of sand is a different shape and weight. Different weight, completely. Every leopard has different spots. Every cheetah's spots are different. Every zebra's spots are different. He is signing his work. You yourself are the signature. This is why there was one sheikh who said, a man was acting a little bit haughty. He was acting like he's better than everybody else. The sheikh said, why do you think you're better than everybody else? He said, I'm unique. He said, you are unique, but that doesn't make you superior. We have guidance. Wallahi, we have guidance. Every one of you is unique, but that doesn't mean you're superior to somebody else. And by the way, you actually might be superior, because we actually do believe that there is a standard of behavior. There is a morality that we can deduce. It's not all relative. If morality was relative, we'd all just go crazy. Then why is Hitler wrong? If morality is relative, why is Hitler bad? There's got to be some limits, right? Everyone's got limits. If morality is relative, why is racism bad? There's got to be something right and wrong. We've got to believe that. And there's got to be a great part in the middle, which we can discuss. But even if you were superior, like whom? Prophets are the most superior of the creation. But how are they told to behave? Superiority is not for you. Right? So what is superiority, by the way? Now let me tell you something, as many Muslims wonder about this. We're not supposed to have arrogance. We're not supposed to behave with superiority, right? But when you look at the divine names, Allah's name is Al-Mutakabbir, the arrogant, the superior. So you wonder, wait a second, I thought that was bad. You got to understand what the purpose of kibr is. Kibr is to put yourself up on a pedestal so everybody can see you. Tell me, in real life, who is ever physically up on a pedestal? Number one, a judge, right? A speaker, like a person on a stage, right? Anyone who needs to make an announcement. So in our world, function is connected to being physically above everybody else. Because we need to see you. Because you can help us. Exit signs have to be high up. You can't put an exit sign down low because when we're in trouble, we need to see the exit sign. So you put something up because it has a function for people. So God tells us, do not be arrogant because you cannot fulfill the functions and the needs of people. Only Allah can elevate himself because he can always fulfill the functions of people. Arrogance will break your back because when you put yourself up there, people will make demands of you that you cannot meet. When God tells us, be humble, don't be arrogant, it's for your sake. Because when you put yourself up there and people make demands of you, now you're this superhero, this great guy. All right, we have demands of you. And you can't meet them, you collapse. Whereas the Creator, he calls himself the one who raises himself. How does the Creator raise himself? He raises himself because he can't help everybody. How does Allah elevate himself? What is the manifestation of this word mutakabbir, the one who elevates himself? Well, Allah, his kibr, he's mutakabbir because the manifestation, at every turn he tells us to remember him. If I had a kid, let's say, right? Let's say I had a daughter, and I told that daughter of mine, listen, when you come home from school, the first thing you do is you come and you run to me and you see if I want something. Okay? When you do your homework, the first break that you take, you come and you scratch my back. The first thing you do when you go to school is you remember me and you pray for me. This is like, wait a second, this is excessive parenting here, right? It's like, this is about you worshiping your dad, right? It's excessive, right? But because I can't help her the way the Creator can. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his mutakabbir is by, at every turn, remember me here, remember me here. When you do this, in our religion, we have such guidelines. Certain things you have to do, and certain things, if you want to do it, you can do it to strengthen your faith. Like what? Even when we go to the bathroom, walk with your left foot first. When you walk out, with your right foot. You're remembering God at every turn. You feel like Allah is always with you. When you eat with your right hand. When you clip your nails, we haven't even an order on the fingers. Like what is the greatest, what is the best of fingers? The Prophet ﷺ said everything has a best. There's the best thing of all things, right? The best of fingers is the Shahada finger. This is the finger that means one God. So when you clip your nails starting with that finger. It's not have to, but it's a sunnah to remember your Creator. At every turn we remember this Creator. Why? Because he can benefit us. That's why. You don't remember something, you don't elevate something so much that cannot benefit you. We have the time now. Let's go. That's a big one. Okay. Okay. What do we want? Okay. All right, so unfortunately we're going to have to take a breather now for Salat al-Maghrib. And we can come back and this lecture didn't even really, these iPad cams, you never look good at them. Okay, look at the audience. There. I didn't really get into much of it, but you know what? Let's just talk. Wherever we go, it goes. And inshallah, we can, pick up after Maghrib. And hey, Jihad, is there any of these kids can be a mic runner? I mean, it's always fun to do.
Oh, for the Q&A?
For the kids, can run around and give the mic to whoever has a question, and we could just talk, inshallah.
We're going to have a QR code.
Good.
Hello? Hello. All right. So everybody, here's the plan for Maghrib and dinner. So Maghrib Salah is going to be held on this floor. When we go outside, we're going to have ushers who are going to tell you where to go. The prayer mats are already set up. It's in the far right corner. We're going to pray real quick. We're going to start prayer at 8, I'll say 8:10. We're going to start prayer, so I'll give you 5 minutes to make wudu. We're going to start prayer at 8:10. Right after prayer, everybody head to the food. Grab your food and come inside. So grab your food and come take a seat. And then we're going to start again. We're going to continue the talk, and then we'll go for the Q&A. Now, we have the microphone, and we're also going to have a QR code up top for people who have anonymous questions. So, again, there's going to be a QR code for anybody who has an anonymous question, and then we're going to have microphones. Anybody who has a question to stand, we'll go from there.
Tell them where to pray.
Yep.
So all the questions are new. Don't worry about that.
No live?
I'll keep it on this one.
No live Q&A?
Yeah, live Q&A, but anyone who has like a question online as well, I'll come up here. So, but I'll keep this one for you. This is just like at 20% right now, so.
All right, no problem.
Okay, let's put it here.
Assalamualaikum.
I heard you lived in Fez.
Yeah, for about part of the summer.
ما شاء الله سكنت في فاس.
ما شاء الله.
درست وتلعبي في معهد حالي.
ما شاء الله ممتاز.
So ما شاء الله so I heard you living like a connection. And I do the Sira class at Sheikh Hassan's TMC.
Oh, great.
But I would love to connect with you.
Oh yeah. Do you have one? I can use like a long charger.
On the weekends I do.
Give me a free consultation.
Oh, yeah. We all need it, you know.
I know.
So where'd you live?
It was called that East. It was old school. And they have it. That East.
Was it in like so you were like studying
Just studying. It was a government program. It's Sheikh Abdul Hayy al-Ayyubi.
Okay, I'll be right there.
I still do some private classes, teach undergraduate.
You're a lifesaver, man. Yeah, as long as this is kept on charger, should be fine.
I just did 2 years. How are you? You studied in Morocco.
I know, I was going to talk to you. So, oh my God, let's see you. We did it. You want her to be
Yeah, if you can. That'd be great. Okay,
I don't know. I'll let Dr. Shadee know. Yeah, I'll let Dr. Shadee know. That's fine. Is it charging?
Oh, it's gotta be non-stop.
Huh? Oh yeah, it's charging.
iPad is amazing.
That's why I live on.
All PDFs. All day and all night.
What's the price?
شنو
قدرتك؟ شو؟
We have to be translators to them because people don't read period.
Okay, inshallah.
Nice to meet you. Salam, rahmatullah. Good haddock. How's it going? How's life with you?
How's the haircut?
Oh, you got a haircut? Nice, it's good.
You like it?
It's good. It doesn't look like a haircut, so then you know it's good.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Between now and like a few hours ago?
Yeah, I didn't even know it.
Oh, okay.
But it doesn't look like a haircut where it's too obvious.
Okay, good.
So how's life with you?
Just, I just, a couple of weeks ago, took my haircut, so it was rough. Let's
Did you pass?
Well, I mean, I don't, the thing that what they do is they like hold it over your head for a month, and then they
How many points is it at?
528, and a good one for med school is like 510 plus, 510 plus. So
So
I
you
mean,
can only get 18 questions wrong.
I mean,
That's a lot. That's not a lot.
well,
How many questions?
no, it's you can get a perfect score and a few questions wrong. It's weird. They base it off of the average. I don't even know, but
Oh, it's a bell curve.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you need to be in a certain percentile.
Yeah, basically.
That's good.
It's almost like it's almost, they don't frame it like this, but it's like a competition.
MCAT is essentially, is it all biology?
It's no, what they do is it's like everything you've covered and like other stuff like biology, chemistry, physics, psychology, sociology, organic chemistry, biochemistry, even like the reading comprehension I've gotten like before on like SAT or whatever. So this is like that, but
Oh, so there's reading too.
there's a reading comprehension section as well. So
What's the purpose of that for them?
in terms of that, I guess to see if you can
To be well-rounded?
yeah, go around it exactly. Like they don't. I guess they just want to really try to get every last drop out of you.
So what kind of doctor do you want to be?
صراحة the one that's fair for me.
Yeah. You don't have a...
I don't even fully know. Whatever.
You want to be a trauma doctor? Trauma?
Trauma man. That would be a rough lifestyle, but
If I was to go into medicine, the only medicine I would do is trauma.
trauma really.
Yeah.
Why? What is
Trauma.
what's the appeal?
It's exciting.
It is exciting.
Everything else is sort of like blah. It's the same office, right?
I also, it's also, it is less exciting,
Yeah.
but I feel like you get to know your patients better.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And that's more of what I would do, personally.
That's really good.
Because I feel like if I'm being woken up at 2
So that's general medicine,
I guess. We can, yeah.
right? General. Because my generalist, I'm very close with him.
Yeah.
And then he dishes me off to the specialist. The general doctor has to be a people person. Trauma guys have to be like made of steel.
Yeah, those, I have so much respect for, they are like machines.
And they see stuff that's crazy.
And they're like completely unfazed, under control.
And they got to be creative because you never know what's going to come. So you got to be up to date. Like you can get an eye issue, you can get a stab wound. Everything's going to be different.
Yeah. But yeah, that's, and honestly, I think that isn't even reflective of how med school is. The only kind of section that is the biology section.
Biology, yeah. And that's the biggest one.
Yeah.
Is there chem?
There's chemistry.
That's the killer.
Man.
Organic chem, I heard, that's butcher.
I don't hate subjects in general.
Yeah.
I hate organic and I hate physics.
Yeah.
Those two.
So tell me, where are you from, sir? So, what is the deal? Why do people say that the people of Damascus have a big chip on their shoulder, or they have some kind of nose in the air? Why do they say that?
Chip on the
No,
shoulder.
a nose in the air.
I've never heard
Never heard of that
expression. No,
that the people of Damascus like really think they're something special.
Oh man, that's a problem. It's, I mean, I'm from there and I see it. Yeah, I mean.
Did you go a lot?
I used to go every summer for like a couple months at a time, right?
So your Arabic is good?
Yeah. And plus, like, I speak it out loud with my parents. Yeah, they've always drilled it.
Yeah. Are most people in Syria, do they pray and fast and stuff?
Most?
Do you?
Yeah.
Or is this mostly secular?
I mean, from where I've been at least.
Yeah.
But no, it's great in that regard. It does feel very like communal. But there is a certain, like, sometimes you just hear comments like,
Wow.
yeah, you know, and it's just like very eyebrow raising. Oh, sorry.
Experience.
But Hassan's my.
Is he Syrian too?
I think he's
Shadee,
Yes.
your conversation's on YouTube.
Oh, sorry for everyone from Damascus for saying that your nose is in the air. Alhamdulillah, nothing private.
You said your life is all story.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
Khalas. You're life. Come look. Maybe you'll get married.
Maybe.
Hey, who wants this guy? Dr. to be Syrian. Let's see.
Yeah, but personally, I think it's also a problem with certain nationalities in general, where we forget that Islam is what's supposed to be.
That's
Instead of-
the Jahiliyyah.
It is very tribalistic. So, although I see this problem in Syria, it's not just limited to that, and I've seen it in different cultures. So, like also with Danny, how when I see Arabs and Indians interact with one another as groups, each one has it's almost like a superior complex. That's true. So,
So you're gonna apply to medical school? Finish your senior year this year?
Yeah. And
Medical school in Miller?
where's Miller at? Miami. Is it a good? I mean, I haven't even done my research on it.
It's like maybe top 25.
Oh. Any Florida school, I would hate to live in
Why would you senior
Florida? I really couldn't tell you. I get Florida, Detroit, / like the Michigan area, and Dallas. Dallas. Syrians, dream location. I have no idea why.
That's crazy. We have some in New
Buffalo?
We have some in New
Oh, okay.
Some small, couple.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I guess maybe just because there's already an enclave in there. They're like, okay, I know
They
it's
go where they're at.
Exactly.
brothers and sisters older?
I have one brother and sister. They're both. I'm 7 years younger than the next one.
And then the baby of the family.
Yeah, which is wild. But yeah,
That's good. Are they doctors too?
one's a doctor, one's a dentist. So I got like.
So that's how it is.
I got
Is one
that,
of your
like,
parents?
I got that shadow on my.
Yeah.
you
Is one of your parents?
Yeah. Although even my dad's a doctor, but he's made it like they're you know, whatever you do, you can do whatever you want. Don't just because I'm.
So just force you.
No. He like
That's great.
from like day one, he was like, you don't have to.
Yeah.
It's whatever you want to be. Just do it to the best of your ability. I don't want you to be like. Basically said, if you're gonna do something, you don't have to. Don't be lazy. You gotta take it.
That's good.
How about you have siblings?
I have a sister. I have a sister. She's with me all the time.
It's pretty much like it's like my two sisters. Like my 9.
Yeah. It's your sister's the first.
Yes.
So basically, so basically,
She's already with like she's already married. I grew up like like almost like an only child when I was like 11 years old. Because my brother has done college. So that's how but
I've always wanted to go to gymnastics. It's just anyone who's into deep.
yeah, extremely. Like, even like just general like posts on Facebook or social media, they get like I'm sure if I just sent it based on my dad's Facebook posts, it probably. So I mean,
So he's outspoken.
yeah, he does this quick shit.
That's crazy.
I don't know, he's had several of his own posts that have been taken down.
It's crazy.
That's just how it is, you know. Even in general, social media was.
War is it's
It's decimated, and like, not that there's much of it, but it's technically over just by default. It's not even because no one is a winner.
one of those wars where even when he wins, it's wars. Just to prove a point.
I mean, it's not even like he's also under like he's
Oh, yeah.
from
The Russian. He would have been home.
that's my best friend.
No,
You gotta meet him.
I have a question.
What's up, dude? Die. It's in school.
So if I wanted to do it on the university,
I'm stuck in Tampa.
like course by course, we do it on myartview.org. And a lot of people study this. In every city, we got people from every city.
You said it was my art?
ARC. ARK. ARK.
You. That word.
Yeah. So that's what we do. And we study every week. We have classes. And it's a small group.
Yeah, that's
We
what
get to talk.
Yeah, I really wanted to do. I wanted to, go overseas and like right now. I wanted to sort of waste 2 years.
Yeah. Study with the people you have here. Soak them dry. Squeeze them dry.
No, him in. Which is not gonna fit.
Yeah, go.
take too much
No, no
of your
problem.
time away. Let's.
Hey, we might go to TMC.
Oh yes. Yes.
Gotta do it.
No, for sure. I mean, like you were saying earlier, how can you save up? If you're not thinking about what you are, I'm not saying 24/7.
Regular.
He's given you 24 hours
Free.
and
Free.
and we barely use an hour.
Yeah. And but the more a person does remember his qualities, the more they know to be
I definitely feel I've like done this a lot. I genuinely
come and bring your friend. You're gonna see. I don't know if you have train.
trains it.
Oh, train. I'm gonna show you.
Yet to be trained.
Oh, you're gonna get trained.
Sounds great.
What school is it? Eighth grade class. Oh, food. Wow, this is too much. How much? Just give me the sweets. And then I'll leave it at so I can get it. Sixth grade? All you guys ninth grade? You guys have a basketball team? A soccer team?
Yes.
You play other schools?
One other.
So you have a league of 2 teams. That gives you a 50% chance of winning every game. You're welcome. Already, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So where we left off, you don't want to feel disconnected and just roaming around like a leaf in the wind. I wonder how these politicians survive. Especially, let's say you're on the progressive side, right? Let's say you want to be on the progressive side. You know for a fact, whatever you're saying in 2022, in 2032, something you said in 2022 is going to be so politically incorrect you're going to be canceled. Right? If you open your mouth in 2012, like you're a comedian or a politician or some public person, the fact that you open your mouth in 2012, guaranteed something you said is going to get you canceled in 2022. Same thing in 2032. So it's constant change. So the point when we talked about what is the rational underpinning of why we believe in a creator is because reason and fact could pin an idea into your mind. It could pin it into the ground and make it true to the point that there's no doubt about it. I'm not changing because I have knowledge, right? If you have knowledge about something, you have certainty about something, you don't change. It's only when you have doubt, when you have constant doubt, right? So let's look at, well, what else do we need? Knowing the creator in itself does not answer a lot of questions. It answers some questions, but it doesn't answer, well, how did we get here? All right, the creator made us, but how? Why? It doesn't answer the biggest question. Like all that we said here, the atom, the universe, all of that, it merely points to one conclusion. There's a creator. But that's not enough. Well, why do I exist? Schools are supposed to educate us. But I don't think that they educate us on the most important question. Secular schools. They're not allowed to talk about it. They can tell you how to exist. Learn to read, follow directions, get a job. They don't tell you why you exist. It's the most important question. If you understand why you exist, then your life is going to be filled with meaning. So, reason and observation can never answer that question. Right? You cannot think and get a result of why you exist. Okay? You can think and get a result that we have a creator. But thinking by itself, observing the world by itself, will not tell you why the creator made you. Why do I exist? If you don't have an answer to that question, then I ask you, what do you have? Think about it. Think about it. In everything you do, you have to ask the question, why am I here? Well, what's the goal? What's the purpose? Purpose is the most important thing in our lives. If you're wondering and you're depressed and you're down and out, it's all because of a lack of purpose. I don't know why I exist. I don't know what I'm doing here. So what do we need for that? We need prophethood. Now this creator cannot, it doesn't seem like it makes any sense to create this perfect world and perfect universe without giving us the reason for its existence, without communicating to us. Everything that we make, if we can draw an analogy, every time that one of you gets an update on your device, they'll tell you, what they updated. They tell you, well, we got bug fixes. What is the purpose? They give you instructions. And that's why we need to turn now our attention to prophethood. Because once we pass the first drill, we've drilled in the concept that we have a creator and a maker. We now need to drill in through our minds prophethood. Prophethood is what's going to give us all the other pieces of information that we're missing. Like what? Purpose of why we exist, moral dilemmas, cultural wars. So the culture wars, what are the battlegrounds of the culture wars? Abortion. Abortion is the battleground of the culture wars. Sexuality. What is sexuality? Sexuality is what is the right thing to do with my body part? Essentially that's what it is. We're not going to talk too much about it because we have some kids here to raise a G. right? That's essentially what it is. I mean, your parents tell you when you grow up, when you're young, don't put your finger in a socket. There's a reason. It's not, you can get shocked, right? Don't put the electric cord in your mouth. Don't touch a fire. Don't put your hand in your brother's eyes, right? Don't put your finger in your brother's eyes. Don't touch that part of your body in front of everybody. You must have heard that from his mom. Certain things. Now, as we become adults, there's now like a moral dilemma of what are we allowed to do with our body part? That's essentially what the sexuality is. It's a child's question almost. What can we do? Can I do this with my body part on another person? Essentially, that's what it is. How about gender? Is the physical thing and the essence of the thing the same thing? You know that this is an age-old philosophical question. I was just teaching a class on Tuesday from the theologian Al-Fakhr al-Razi, and he mentions right at the end of the first passage on Surah Maryam, and he says that the absence of a physical thing is as the absence of the essence of the thing. I'm like, what does this have to do with anything? It's an age-old debate. Is the physical aspect of a thing equal to the essence of a thing, right? So what is this physically? It's a pen. So in essence, it's a pen. It's a writing tool. That's the essence of it. So that you can't separate the physical thing from the essence of a thing. That's the whole transgender philosophy right there. They've separated the physical thing from the essence of the thing. Okay, that's your philosophy. You can't tell me it's absolute truth. That's your belief. What we believe is that the physical thing is the essence as well. So if I came and told you this is actually an iPad, okay? I've separated the existence of the thing, the physical thing, from the essence of the thing. And that's essentially their philosophy. They're free to have a philosophy. I don't have to like it. I don't have to agree with it. They don't have to agree with mine. Right? So, but they have to understand it is a philosophy. It is an opinion. It's an opinion and a philosophy. It's not like absolute truth that you separate the physical thing from the essence of the thing. So we say, what is the essence of your gender? It is the essence of what you are physically. That's our belief. Sorry if it bothers you, but that's what it is, right? So, there are so many issues that are not solved unless we have the referee, who is the creator, to tell us. So abortion is one, sexuality is two, gender is three. What's the fourth one? How about rich and poor? Well, Marxists versus capitalists, right? Marxists versus capitalists. Who here thinks we should tax the rich? Okay. All right. Marxists and capitalists. So wealth. What else is a battleground that we are fighting in our culture that's really ripping apart the culture? What else is there? Did I miss one? Guns? Only some wimpy people don't want guns. Race. Race. Identity through race and ethnicity. Right? So where's my loyalty? Where does my loyalty go to? Does it go to my tribe, my family, my skin, my nationality? Right? Where's my loyalty? So identity and loyalty and race. What else? Hijab ban? Who makes rules on what people could wear and why? Right? Who's making these rules and who has the authority to make these rules? I'm telling you, without some kind of reference from our Creator, human beings will be in constant war. So we need a message from our Creator. And that message comes through prophethood. So what we have to turn our eyes on to now and direct our attention and our energy to is what is the rational underpinnings why we believe that the prophet was actually a prophet. Now here's one thing. There's no prophet that can be considered except for a few prophets. Right? Moses and Jesus, you know that we believe in Moses and Jesus. Okay? And I'm telling you, we have more respect for Moses and Jesus, no offense if there's Jews and Christians here, we have more respect for Moses and Jesus than people in those traditions. Right? One time there was an interfaith conference. Now, I don't really go to interfaith conferences. Right? I already made my decision. But if it's just about being friendly, fine. So one guy goes and he asks the Muslim representative, and he says, hey, listen, we're having like a relaxed evening at the end of the conference, and I had this joke about Moses, but I first wanted to see if it was offensive to you. And we're like, wait a second, but you're the rabbi. You should be the first one who's offended by that. He's like, oh yeah, but we don't have that type of thing. I was like, no, don't say a joke about Moses. This is an offense to us. And no offense to anyone who's a Christian. But we have more respect and honor for Jesus. You know, if a Muslim made a play, Jesus Christ Superstar, and Jesus turned out to be gay with his disciples, that Muslim, walking down the street, he'd get jumped. We wouldn't allow it for Jesus, for you to say that. For Jesus. He's not the prophet of Islam. But he's one of our prophets. He's not our God. We don't wake up in the morning, would Jesus have done this? No, we say, what would Muhammad do? That's our prophet. But Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam would not have it that any of his followers, except they show the utmost respect to every other follower. And even though we believe Muhammad is the most superior of prophets, we believe that, right? But the prophet said, don't ever say that I'm more superior than another prophet. Even though it is a doctrine, right? But don't compare prophets. That's how much he commanded us to have that respect. Right? How about Sayyidina Maryam? Right? I was studying in a comparative religion class. I don't know a lot of the verses of the Bible, but we had to study the Bible. So one guy, the professor, he was a good professor. He was a Hindu. But he knew a lot about all these religions. So he ends up saying, these Muslim theologians were very good in India, and they debated the Christians all the time. Because the Christians came from Portugal and stuff. And he said, Christians, what does our Quran say about Jesus? It says, Barran biwalidatihi. He was very polite to his mother. Now when the Muslims saw that, every single verse about Jesus is actually a correction of the Bible. So the Muslims then realized there must be a verse about Jesus in the Bible where he's disrespecting the Virgin Mary. And the Quran is fixing that. That's not true. That book was added in later or altered. So what's the story? It said Jesus received guests. And Mary served the guests. She brought water for the guests. And Jesus said, I have guests. And you bring us water? Go get some wine, woman. It's a verse in the Bible. So the Muslims realize that every verse about Jesus in the Quran is actually a correction of something in the Bible that was altered. Right? What's my point? The point is, there's not enough historical data about Moses and Jesus to even really have a discussion. We don't have any history. The sayings of Jesus, the sayings of Moses, it's almost like hearsay. For the Prophet Muhammad, we documented everything that was claimed that he said, and we sifted through. This claim is authentic. This claim is 50-50. Weak. This claim is a forgery. We can study the Prophet. The same cannot be said for previous prophets. So the only historical prophet, in the sense that we can actually assess what the Prophet brought in the language that he spoke, we have that. The only other prophet he's the only prophet, he's the only major prophet. The only other prophets are all the prophets that came after him, which, to be honest, their message is too weak to even enter the discussion. Yes? Oh, we got a mic runner. All right, if you want this young lady, she hasn't run yet. We'll give her applause when she's done the job, right? Okay, good. So what you can do is, if you sit, you can sit here. If you see anybody, here, let me move over. If you see anybody who raises their hand, oh, there it is. There it is. Go give them the mic. All right, so proofs of prophethood. The only prophet we can assess is Muhammad. The only other claimants are, who are the other claimants of prophethood? The Sikh prophet, Guru Nanak. Okay. There are other prophets, only small time, no comparison. Right? So the only prophet we can assess is Muhammad. But that's not the only reason. I'm going to get to your question in a second. Yeah. That's not the only reason. Let me give you 3 stories about the prophet, peace be upon him, that show us that the Quran was not his offering. It was not from him. No person would have done this. The first one was that when the revelation first came to the prophet, and word spread that he received revelation, after about a few weeks, months, it stopped. So you know when you ever feel like you're starting something new in your life? Like, I'm going to get physically fit, right? Or I'm going to get pious. You change your religion or you start being pious. And then what happens? You stopped. You weren't able to do it anymore. What do you have family members and your friends do? They make fun of you, right? So the prophet, the revelation came, a few converts converted, then the revelation stopped. He had no more verses to recite to people. So his family, some of his uncles, they started making fun of him. What happened to your God? Doesn't talk to you anymore? Just like if you were like trying to get physically fit and then you started not exercise anymore. Hey, what happened to that fad that you were into? Right? Hey, what's going on with your fitness? Or if you turned vegetarian and then all of a sudden you couldn't do it anymore. Hey, what happened to your vegetarianism? You're into fat? I'm a vegetarian, except when I eat. Right? So these sorry, that was so bad. I have to do it, right? The winters in Jersey are so bad, we all put on some weight. So I think maybe if I be vegetarian, right? Yeah. So he started getting made fun of. For a long time, they made fun of him. If the revelation was his own invention, would he allow that to continue? It happened again a couple years later. The Jews came and said, we know all about prophets. We have so many prophets. Meccans, O pagans, enemies of Muhammad, challenge Muhammad with these 3 questions. If he's truly talking to Gabriel, talking to God, God will give him the answer. These are 3 questions that nobody knows except for us Jews. So the prophet said, okay, I'll tell you tomorrow. Now all the Muslims are waiting. This is like a debate, a challenge. They're waiting. Next day comes, no answer. Next day comes, no answer. Okay? Next day comes, no answer. 15 days. His own followers some of them started to lose faith. They get weak. 15 days, no answer. Now, 15 days, you see the prophet. He's not going, there's no libraries in Mecca. There's no secret person. And you live in those old villages. Everyone knows where you are at all times. So he didn't go study the answer. He didn't go research the answer. He told them, I'll be back tomorrow. Right? But he didn't come tomorrow. Next day, 15 days. They made fun of him. Then finally the revelation came down. And they're like, phew. But look, if the revelation was from him, if he had the answer, why not answer it? Let's fast forward. About 10 years later, Prophet ﷺ married Aisha. The Prophet married Aisha. And she was a fiery person. She was even red-haired. Some of the Arabs can be of all skins. They can be so dark that they look like they're East Africans. Like Ali bin Abi Talib, Zayd bin Harith, very dark. They look like they're Africans. And they can be very light, like some of the Syrians. They can have reddish hair. So Aisha, she was of reddish hair. Okay? She was fiery in her personality. She was outgoing. Okay? Sometimes she would do things that were on the spot. Like what? One time they were traveling with the Prophet, peace be upon him. And she was out with them, a whole group of people, and she's one of them. But she lost her necklace. And she went looking for the necklace. When she went looking for the necklace, she came back, they had all left. They left without her. They didn't know that she wasn't there, right? She was spontaneous. So she fell asleep. Night came, she fell asleep. Another man came, And he said, oh, Aisha, all right, let me take you home. So what is the sight? Is that the next morning, they see Aisha and this young man coming home, coming into the city together. So the Prophet had enemies, right? The enemies jumped on him. They saw Aisha and that young man, they're having a little thing going on. And so this hurt the Prophet. The rumor spread. This rumor spread for 1 month. 1 month of pain. And it caused fitna. Fitna is discord in the house. Even the Prophet was like, it's not, you can't believe it, there's no facts. But at the same time, a rumor is one of those things that settles in people's minds without facts. And it's like impossible to prove, to disprove. That's like a rumor. It's like impossible to disprove. So then what disproved it at the end? After 30 days, Allah revealed Quran, saying that Aisha is innocent. So then the believers, khalas, it quelled the rumor. And the hypocrites, they couldn't talk anymore. So what quelled the rumor? Revelation. If the Prophet was the author of the Quran, why would you wait 30 days and put your family through that? So sometimes, by imposing this difficulty on the Prophet, Allah is demonstrating to everybody, it's not his words. It's not the words of the Prophet, peace be upon him. All right, I have more things to say, but we'll go back and forth between the questions. All right, let's see, Rasha, what you got?
I'm just wondering, what's the goal of a Muslim in a secular society? Are they hoping to change the secular fabric of society, or do they just want to preserve their faith and the faith of their children, or is it something else?
Okay, it's a very big question. And the way I look at these things is, I never look at a whole big picture. There's a sphere, and this is some life advice, if I can give you some life advice. Okay, usually life advice is best from someone who's lived a bit longer, but from the little that I could tell you, some life advice is really good. There's something called the sphere of influence and the sphere of concern. The sphere of concern is things that I care about, but I can't do anything about it. The sphere of influence is something I 100% can do something about it, right? When you wake up in the morning, 95% of your time should be dedicated to your sphere of influence and 5% to your sphere of concern. Okay. Anyone who's got this backwards is just wasting his life, wasting his time. And here's the beauty of it. You think that that's selfish. It's not selfish at all. My sphere of influence, if I focus on it, it grows. It grows into my sphere of concern. So when we ask the question, like, what is our goal as Muslims in America? That's a very big goal. I'm only going to devote to it that 5%. And I'm going to say, just to be examples of what a prophetic community would be like. Not individuals. You can find a needle in a haystack. You can find a good person in any faith. I can go to the church of Satan and hang out long enough, I'll find a decent person, right? It's not about one good Muslim. That's not a proof. The proof is the community. That's the proof. So I say, and that's why I call our organization Safina Society, because we need to stick together in small bands. The first band is me and myself. I got to rectify myself first. Don't forget you and yourself, right? The second is me and the person I live with. Let's say you're married, your husband or wife. Now, if your wife isn't on the same page, if your wife isn't, you haven't convinced your wife, why would you convince anyone else? Right? Then you got your kids. You ever see a preacher and his kids are the worst kids? This is I call it Sheikh's son syndrome. Sheikh is like the Islamic scholar. His son is the worst kid in the mosque. Right? You ever seen this before? I've seen it a lot, trust me. Sometimes they straighten out, but they're like spoiled. They think they own the mosque, right? Because their dad is the preacher, right? And the scholar. So Sheikh's son syndrome. So you got to educate your kids. God gave you your kids. The people are other people's kids. Let their parents worry about them, right? God didn't go and tell you to go to the people. He gave you kids. So take care of your kids. So sphere of influence first. But if your wife is on the same page as you, and your kids are, if you got your kids to buy into your beliefs, right? You've done something right. Especially if you have a lot of kids. Surely one of them is going to challenge you, maybe two of them. If pretty much overall, they agree that this is the truth, right? You must have done something right. You must be good, a good example. So your kids first. But you can't live with your family in a vacuum. And how we're going to survive, that like the title of this class, or this section thing here, is living Iman, faith, in a secular world. We can't do it alone. We always have to be together. Muslims always have to be together, right? COVID was such an aberration, but Muslims always have to be together. Jum'ah, we're together. We go to the masjid, we gotta go to the masjid at least 2-3 times. You gotta have Muslim friends, okay? The families have to get together for dinner. It gives you mental stability to feel like you have a strong community, that you're always getting together with these people who care about you. It's not just my mom and dad and my sister who care about me. No. I got a lot of people who care about me. And we all believe the same thing. I'm telling you, if you have any doubts, let's say some people, they have doubts. Yeah, I sort of think it's true, maybe it's not. When you walk into a mosque of 100 people also praying, 100 people aren't going to be stupid, right? They're not going to be ignorant. It gives you a feeling of support. I'm not all alone in this. Other people believe in this too. Now let me tell you something. If God was to send down a message, it would probably be successful, right? Because after all, He is the creator, right? He's not going to be a failure when He does something. 1 out of 4 people right now is a Muslim. That by itself, in the world, 1 out of 4. Soon it's going to be 1 out of 3. Okay? Because Islam tells us to populate the earth. Soon it's going to be, in our lifetime, it's going to be 1 out of 3 people believes in Muhammad and lives by him. Maybe not. Lives by him, but they believe him. Don't you think that it's worth studying? Who is Muhammad? How is it he's so successful? From someone who never went to school, never cracked open a book, never had a mentor on earth? How do you not have a mentor? Never cracked open a book, never went to university, never lived in a city. You grew up in a place that had no government. There was no government, no libraries, nothing, no police. A completely wild people. And he comes out of there. Now, if he was just, let's say it was just amazing personal charisma, it would die out after 100 years. If it was amazing personal charisma, wouldn't that die out? Wouldn't the intellectuals eventually say, all right, let's really look at this stuff and then find all the holes in it? No. It's a historical fact that the population of Muslims has been ever increasing. The land may have been lost, like Spain was lost. Okay? I'm not going to say some other countries that were lost so that TMC doesn't get cancers. But there were some other countries that were lost, it's true. They used to be on maps, but they're not on maps anymore. Then you had the population still going up. And in Islam's worst century, where we lost the last ruler, Muslim ruler, the Ottoman Empire, from 1924, and we're almost hitting 100 years now, 2024. What happened in that century? In that century, there has been over almost 150 million Muslims living in the Western Hemisphere. South America, Central America, North America, and Western Europe. 150 million Muslims. That would have been something unfathomable in 1924. So if God sent down a message, it would be a successful message, right? And Islam is a successful religion. If you're looking at it from the perspective of countries, you're looking at the wrong perspective. If you say, well, listen, all the Muslim countries, except for maybe Turkey and Malaysia, are dirty. And they're corrupt. I would agree with you. But what I would say is your measure is wrong. You don't measure a religion by the nature of its countries. People are people. You measure a religion by what it does for individual salvation. And human beings, individuals like me and you, on their own, are finding their succour and support and stability through the teaching of the Prophet. That's how you measure a religion. And that number keeps increasing. If they weren't finding anything, it would decrease. All right, next question for this young lady. Or should we take one from the... should we take one from here? But in the meantime, let's take this question here. There's a little bit of a glitch on the StreamYard, but we'll go for it. What is the halal way of approaching a Muslim girl without being offensive? Did you see that finish?
Here, why don't I just send you? You probably don't need this sheet now. Let me send you the link and stuff.
All right. Here's the thing. This is really a problem. Without any, see, firstly, we have the urge, we need to have a partner in life. Okay? We have attraction. We have emotional attraction, physical attraction. But what sets up the parameters of how we go about that? Right? How do we go about this? What sets up those parameters? Now, you don't realize that outside in a lot of the world that's not Muslim, that it's sort of vague. How do you go about this? And if you didn't have a religion, why would you marry at all? It's just a cultural thing, right? If you didn't have a religion, why would you marry? Why would you commit yourself? Why would you go about this? What is the sacrament in the first place? Why this oath of loyalty to one another? Like, why do that? Why observe these rules without a religion? So, it's really only an expression of our belief. Our belief in God is that we follow His rules and believe in His guidelines. When Allah says do, He's telling you do benefit yourself. When He says don't, He's telling you don't harm yourself, because He's gaining nothing from this. The entirety of creation is an act of generosity. So the way that a person marries in Islam is generally speaking, I would not advise a brother to go straight up to a sister and talk about it. You put her in an impossible situation, okay? And you put yourself in a situation where you get rejected, okay? So what you want to do is you want to use a third-party act. You get somebody else that would see if there's some compatibility. That's the way you do it. And what we don't have now, I'm not naive and don't understand what people do in the real world. But I'm telling you what we're not supposed to do. We don't go out with somebody and test them out, right? And then live together and be as if we're husband and wife, and then decide to get married. That's not how it works. That's not how we do things. Okay? The way we do things is that we get to know one another in a setting, and then if that person has shown some inclination to get to know you, then you get to know them in a setting where things won't get extremely emotional or attached. And then you continue that until you're both ready to take the next step, which is to get engaged. And then your families start to meet up with one another to make sure that this person is authentic, that he's genuine, he's not hiding something. And to make sure that your emotions aren't getting the best of your mind. A lot of times, a guy could be a really great, as a prospect for marriage, he puts his best foot forward, but there's a lot of things about this person that they come out when you're engaged. You get engaged, and then you finally get married after that. But that's all assuming people have families. Not everyone, like converts, may not have a Muslim family, right? But you still, we just had a wedding of 2 converts, right? The way they did it is that they met each other, I don't know how, okay? Sometimes these events are also settings for that, okay? Which is fine. How is he going to meet people? Then they said, all right, he went and visited her, met with her family, they had a couple dinners, met again. They did this for a period of time, but in a setting where no one can get so attached to the other person, or that's even in a seriously private setting. And then after they got to know each other, they got comfortable and talked about the major things and how they want to live, etc., etc. Then he proposed. Now they're engaged. Okay. So I wouldn't go straight directly to the girl. Next question. Where's our little Smurf? All right, go ahead. I'm surprised how many people know what a Smurf is. This is an old generation thing. Nobody? All right.
Yeah, so.
You have something to say? Yeah, where's the question? Raise your hand.
Who are you?
There he is. Pass the mic on. Okay,
Yeah.
so you already did. Okay, good.
First of all, I want to say my cousin Muhammad Zobi told me to come say hi.
Oh, Muhammad Zagbi, mashallah.
Yeah, he told me to come say hi to you. So
That's good.
Yeah, I'm just making sure that. Yeah,
Nice.
the real question is though, so I have a friend. We have a friend group of a few people.
It's always a friend, huh?
Yeah.
Go on. Spin down. Just spin down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. My friend, right? He kind of like strayed away from Islam. He's a Muslim. Like, he was born Muslim. Like, I met him in Islamic school, like in private school.
Yeah.
That's how I knew him ever since I was a kid. And like recently he's been like doing things not the best and stuff, and kind of like rejecting a lot of major things in Islam.
Mm-hmm.
In Islam. And we've been trying our best to, especially Muhammad, he's been like really like on me, like, man, he's your friend, you gotta stay with him, keep him, like you can dawah a lot. But it's tough. It's tough. Like, what? Do you have any advice on how to like concretely like get someone to like and believe? Because it's really tough. Like it's like almost anything you can say. Try to poke a hole in it and say, this is not. Why should I believe this? Or, you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. I've been there many, many times, and my answer to that is, or my experience with that is, people are going to do what they're going to do. I never chase anybody. I tried that in the past. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, what is the difference between me and you? Talking to his companions, saying, when your animal goes away, your riding beast, horse, camel, whatever you ride, goes away, you chase it. When you chase it, what happens? It goes further away. But I shake the bag of oats until it comes back. Okay. So I never chase anybody, to be honest with you. People know where the good is, and they're always welcome. Right? People are always welcome to come to our center, for example. They're always welcome to comment on my posts, for example. They're always welcome to talk. But I'm not chasing anybody. This is what our religion is, and I honestly have the confidence, if they tasted it, right, they're going to stick with it. From themselves, not from anything. Water never has to do marketing. You notice that? It's ugly bottles, because it speaks for itself. Vodka, alcohol, beer, this stuff is poison. That's why they got to sell it to you, right? They got to put it in a nice, beautiful bottle. It's poison, right? Milk, water, the product speaks for itself, right? So you don't need to market it. I don't believe, now by the way, this is a proof of prophethood. The Prophet, peace be upon him, when he conquered Mecca, all the people were lining up to become Muslims. And the Prophet saw that the companions, after so much sacrifice, they were so proud. But the Prophet tempered it a little bit. He says, as they come in droves, one day they will leave in droves. Why? When you're the winning horse, everyone wants to be a Muslim. Because you're winning. Now, when the whole world is beating us around and Muslims are getting beat up everywhere, and the word of, the philosophies that are opposed to ours, they get all the media attention, and ours gets made fun of, blah, blah, blah. People leave. Muslims themselves, they feel confused, or they feel, a lot of people, they feel they're convinced otherwise. So they leave. So we know the Prophet told us there's going to come a time people will leave in droves. So we can't chase everybody. And you have to sometimes just worry about yourself and stick to the energy. Direct your attention to where you're getting positive feedback. People know where to find us. Let them call us when they're ready. But chasing after them is not going to benefit. So it might sound hard, but I simply never chase after anybody. They're just going to go further away. Let people go through their phases in life. Next question. All right, young man right here. Where's, all right, good.
Okay, so we know that we're supposed to obey our parents all the time, no matter what.
No, that's not correct, actually. But continue. It's not correct. I'll clarify.
So, like, when we have a situation where our mother is telling to do something, and our father is telling to do the exact opposite thing. So, who should we listen to?
That's a great question. And here's the amazing thing when you read that. The reason I said it's not always true, because if your parent tells you to do something that would, for example, take away the rights of others, we don't obey that. And when a man marries, his dad stops giving him orders, suggestions only. Or sorry, when a man can pay his own way in life. Let's say you're a guy, you get a job now, I can pay my own rent, I can pay my own thing. Plus, the dad doesn't tell you what to do anymore. It's suggestions. And you can't hurt their feelings. You have to make sure they're always happy. But the ability to just tell you what to do anymore, plus, you can't do that. Because he's a working man. For a girl, when she marries another guy, she's living in another family now, right? You can't tell her what to do anymore. Okay? Up until marriage, a father is obligated to take care of the maintenance of his daughter, right? A roof. In Islam, I know some people are not going to like this, but from the cradle until the grave, a woman should never pay for her rent, food, or the clothes on her back. It's about payment, right? That's the truth. So, when she's a girl, it's her dad. If she has a dad, her uncle, or grandfather. If she gets married, it's the husband. If the husband dies, it's the son or the niece. Now, that's how it should be. There's a million exceptions. We know that. There's going to be people who don't have any of that. Okay, there are going to be converts who don't have any of that. But we're saying the rule, not the exceptions. So, in your case, a long, long time ago, there was a great imam, his name is Imam Malik. A student came to him and said, my mother is Sudanese and my father is Egyptian. They divorced. My mom says, come live with me in Sudan. My dad says, come live with me in Egypt. He was still a dependent. He was like someone who would need to live with one of his parents. So what did Malik say? He said, obey your father and don't upset your mother. Meaning that your father is the one who pays your way in life. So you must obey him. But the heart of your mother is the door of your paradise. So you must never hurt the feelings of your mom. So that he has to figure it out somehow. So when parents are telling you the opposite things, and they're both halal things, nothing is unlawful or oppressive, then you obey your dad, but you don't hurt the feelings of your mom. Okay? You have to figure that out. It's a riddle. You have to figure it out. Next question. Let's take one from here. I said, Assalamu alaikum. This is the greeting of Muslims, is to say Assalamu alaikum. Now, it's recommended to do it, recommended to greet someone, but if they greet you, you have to respond. It's an obligation to respond. So this questioner says, I said Assalamu alaikum, but they blatantly ignored me. What's the best course of action? It seems to be that you will simply, we get this all the time, right? It happens all the time. You love somebody, you're chasing after somebody, they don't want to be your friend. How much stress you text somebody and they don't text back? That shaitan plays games with you, makes you crazy. Oh, why don't they text back? What are they doing? Then you go to your Instagram. Oh, they're on Instagram, so they saw my text. So we say about that, really, that when it comes to our rights, we should have an attitude of foregoing our own rights, believe it or not. So there, in our religion, we have a lot of law, but we have spirit too. So marriage, for example, is a contract. But it's a contract based upon forgiveness. Okay? So, for example, friendship in our community relations, we have that you owe me rights, I owe you rights. Okay? We should have the attitude in friendship that I want to make sure to always give my rights, but I should have the attitude of forgiving if you fail to give me my rights. Because some people just make mistakes. They go bad, they take bad turns in life, they have bad attitudes sometimes, and they got issues. And you'll never get to the bottom of it. So the best attitude to take is a little bit of a selfless attitude of, I'm going to give my rights to people. If they don't want to give me their rights, there's nothing I can do about it, and I'll just let it go. So that's my best advice for you. And I wouldn't chase them again. I wouldn't go around chasing them. And I wouldn't take them into account because it seems like you're becoming heavy. Like, you ever have a friend that takes you to account? It's not a fun friendship anymore. Hey, I called you. Okay? Right? I one time went to a city, and a guy said, oh, you didn't tell me you were coming. Right? I'm not going to tell everybody. Right? It's not practical. Some moms are like this, by the way. Right? I guess moms always has an exception. Okay? Right? Moms always has an exception. But you don't want to be that friend that's heavy. We call that takalluf. It's like you're a heavy person. It's like, oh, you went out? You didn't tell me. Do I report to you? Right? It's a burdensome relationship. All right, next question. Ooh, there's a lot from the Google, from the iPad here. How can one keep halal relations with the opposite gender in school? Don't touch them, don't look at them for lust, don't talk to them for no reason, and don't be alone in the room with them. I'm telling you, there would be no Me Too movement if they had Sharia. Oh, Sharia is such a bad word. Okay, go do your thing and see how it blows up in your face. If you had the Sharia, you wouldn't have had all these problems. We're not allowed to be alone in the room with someone that you could legally, potentially marry. The Prophet said, even if you were teaching her the book of God, and even if she was the Virgin Mary, you're not allowed to be alone with her in a room, with the door locked or closed. Okay? If she is somebody that you could potentially legally marry. Okay? Like she's not your sister, she's not your aunt, she's not your grandmother, she's not your stepdaughter, someone who you could legally marry. It doesn't matter whether you like each other or not. You can't. So you stay away from the doubt. Okay? You stay away from being accused. You don't look at a person unless you have to. Okay? You don't touch them, the opposite gender. These are our rules. These are 3 rules. That's it. That's how simple it is. The Prophet made it that simple all that time ago. Okay. Next.
I got a question.
Okay. We'll go here, and then there's a questioner there.
Assalamualaikum.
Yes.
So I like to get the main point sometimes when I go to lectures, and I got portions, so you were talking about how specifically Allah has a design, and we are all somehow interconnected because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us, just like the zebra and the lion, and there's some sort of connection. And that's what brings us together as a community. And then you mentioned how we make ourselves different based on our race, what we create divisions amongst us ourselves. And so how do you tie that together?
Okay, so the summary of what I would have talked about, and if we had let's say a long form, was that the general sentiment of a lot of people today is that we're flying in there, we're floating like a leaf in the air. We don't know where we're going, where we're coming. We feel disconnected, lack of grounding, right? We don't know what's right and wrong. So the first point of grounding ourselves is through our intellect and knowing with our minds, being able to put it on pen to paper on this and to speak it, that we have a creator. That's the first point. But I also, second point after Maghrib is that I touched and basically just opened up on it, that's not enough. We need prophethood. We need that creator to give us a message. And so we need to rationally also know, why do we believe in Muhammad as a prophet? We have to know this. Okay? And we have to study this. I can't really expound too much in this short period of time, but you can go and expound upon it. The proofs of why Muhammad is a prophet. You can't say because my family. It's not enough. You can't say because I feel it. I feel it. No, you must know with your mind. And so when you have rational proof for something, it's as if you are drilling your confidence and your faith into the cement. It's never going to shake. Your building will never shake. So proofs of prophethood is the second thing. The second half that we never really got to. Okay. There's a third portion which gets really more into the details of how are we ever sure that we know what the God and his prophet mean by their words? And that's interpretation. Okay? That's interpretation. These are the three sources of what gives us like weight. I feel like now I'm unshakable in the sense of my certainty and my confidence in my direction in life. I'm now certain about it. I know I have a creator. He sent me a prophet. And this is how I understand their word and their will for us to live. Okay? So that was the essence of what I would want to, if you want to get down, like, what are the bullet points? Those are the 3 bullet points. And now, we're in the sort of the details of the open Q&A that may relate to how to manage some parts of Islamic life and law and guidance with the secular world that we live in today. I hope that answers your question. Yes, you have a follow-up? Oh, that's a thumbs up. Okay, good. I couldn't see because of this glare. Good. Alhamdulillah. All right, this gentleman had a question.
Question is, I've been recently attempting to go to the local mosque to pray Isha in person or in Jannah. And one of the recent things that I've noticed as of right now, I've always heard was, when you pray and you do your tasbihah, your sins are forgiven. It is as if your sins are forgiven.
Okay.
And then there's another instance where for paying Jamaat, specifically in Jamaat, and when the Imam goes to say Ameen, you wait a little bit before he says it, because the angels say it at the same time, precisely, and if you match that at the same time,
yes,
your sins are forgiven.
Yes.
So, in a religion, subhanAllah, that is so easy to become clear of sin, why are we taught to fear Allah so harshly when He is so merciful? When
that's a good question.
Today, and everything I do becomes forgiven.
That's a good question. You're fearing losing His favor. Because we have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the entire creation is an act of generosity. You have to take that perspective of God. Most people, they got off on the wrong foot. Because when they were young, maybe someone taught them some kind of scary idea, right? About the Creator. But he gets nothing out of this. He benefits nothing out of this. What is the end result? He says, he gives us the purpose of life is in 3 parts. The first one is it's a test. To see who's going to do good, who's going to do bad. Okay, fine, let's say I want to do good. How do I do good? Then he tells us another verse of Quran. We haven't created you except for worship. Okay, so worship is our purpose. All right, once I worship God and I do well in that, what's next? He then says you continue to worship Him until He continues to worship until I love Him. And once I love Him, then I become His hearing with which He hears, His seeing with which He sees. In other words, then the divine can uncover more and more and more of His secrets of creation for you. That's what we call spirituality. And so the ultimate purpose of this creation is love and giving, generosity. So when you say that, what is fear of God? Fear of God is losing that. It's losing that. That's what the fear is. And by the way, not everyone is seeking forgiveness. Some people need to be made to fear. There are criminals out there in the world, right? There's hell exists for a reason, right? There are criminals out there in the world whose temptations are so strong to continue in the wrong that nothing will stop them except that they believe in fear. right? They believe they can be punished, that there's a creator who could punish them. That's the only thing that will stop them. So don't always think that the world is full of all good people. It's not. Some people need to be made afraid. Right? So, all right, next question. Who do we got? Looks like we have. Do you want to go for the iPad? All right, let's see. Individualism and gender neutrality, etc., blah, 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 are all around us. How do we maintain a strong hold on our Islamic values? By the way, I'm going to tell you something right now that's going to shock a lot of you. Islam is a very practical religion. We have separation of certain concepts. If a man, I asked my teacher this, and I got it from many, many veteran senior Islamic scholars. What I'm about to tell you is review. It's not a modernist view. I hate modernist views, right? I want to know the religion as it is, not with some twist. If a man alters himself, and he says, I'm going to be a woman, and so he alters the main markers of being a man, so that he takes hormone blockers, his beard stops coming out, his voice gets thinner, okay? He may start growing, female body parts. He would do the surgery too, okay? If he did all that, and we can say the man has no more markers of what we call maleness. We do not go by DNA. We know by DNA he's a male, right? We go by the outward, okay? We go by the outward. He has eliminated all markers of his maleness, and he has adopted markers of femaleness, okay? What does Islamic law say about that? It says, number one, his action vis-a-vis God is one question, and our action with him is another question. So that's the first unique thing that the Sharia does. It says him vis-a-vis his creator is that he committed a major sin. Not all sins are forgiven, by the way, just by the prayer. Minor sins. There's minor sins, there's major sins. The major sins require serious repentance. So he's committed a major sin with his creator. His creator made him one way, he transformed himself. How are we supposed to deal with him? We deal with him on the markers of his body. If that person now has a chest, she has a soft voice, doesn't have hair on her face, and no longer has male private parts, and now dresses like a woman, talks like a woman, we will treat them like a woman. Okay? This is going to be praying with you guys in the women's section. Okay? Good for you. Okay? That's how it is. We do have a problem with the other mixed thing. Like, dresses like a woman, talks like a woman, but has a beard. That we have a problem with, right? But I don't think he's going to want to be around us in the mosque anyway, right? So we separate. Now, here's another question. I got this question. This is a true question. Imam, I started my transition. In the middle of transitioning from gender, I became a Muslim. And I have to fast Ramadan. But I also have to take the hormone blockers. I called up my sheikh. I said, Sheikh, we have a problem. Wallahi, he first thought I was just making up a philosophical possibility, right? I said, no, this is real. He says, okay, we have answers for that. The rules when something begins in Islam, when you begin something, the rules are different than when you're in the middle of something. If you're just about to begin to do something, we say stop. Don't do it. But if you're halfway there to the point that the questioner says, if I stop, it's going to be very damaging to me. The sheikh said, it's sinful, but she has to finish. Okay? Why? Because there could be severe damage. What's another example? A Muslim woman, she is having a fornicating with some other guy. We say, stop. But if she produces a baby, we have to take care of the baby. Right? That baby's out of wedlock. This is a major sin for us. But once the deed is done, in our Sharia, it doesn't mean that you have no issue with God. You deal with your issue with God yourself. But the way we will treat you is we will take care of the situation. And we will not increase the damage. So if we ostracized her, the baby is going to be born alone, no support, nothing. So we have to take care of that baby. It doesn't mean we approve of what they did. So you have to see how the Sharia actually splices the issue and separates between two things. There's, do we approve of something? And do we continue the damage? Okay. Is it very clear to everybody? So we may not approve of something, but you may have to reduce the damage. Okay. And that's not, don't say, oh, Dr. Shadee said, no. Sheikh Saeed Ramadan Bouti said this, Mahmoud Shabib said this. This is the senior scholars of Islamic law, not me. Next question. Yes.
I am an immigrant Muslim, and after coming to the United States, I realized that the laws and people regard the Constitution very highly. Do you, as a Muslim, we believe in Islam? As an American, we believe in the Constitution, right? Do you ever?
I don't know about believe in the Constitution. Do we have a choice? Yeah.
Okay.
It's some parts of it are okay, but otherwise we have no choice, right? Yeah.
Do you want to talk more about that? The religion of Islam and the Constitution of the United States?
Okay, that's a good question. The country makes law based upon what? Based upon the opinions of the lawmakers. The lawmakers, they take the temperature of the populace, of their district, and they make law beyond that. We have no choice in how they make law. Their method of making law has no respect and no regard for our sources of law. So we have to live this double life. Well, that's the result of when you have a faith and you live in a country that doesn't operate by that law. We're also not forced to live here. We live here by our own choice, right? Well, maybe we are sort of forced because your family's here and you can't really, it's not practical to leave, right? So we have to sort of juggle this thing. That's what I would say. You have to follow the law of your land unless it commands you to do something forbidden that is from the essence of your religion. In that case, we would not follow the law. But we should not expect that the law is going to be in line with our beliefs. It's not in line with our beliefs. So we have to deal with it. We have to make sure that as much as possible we juggle both. Right? So, it's not a good, nice answer, but it's the most practical answer. Right? There's nothing else we could do. You're not going to go and tell U.S. lawmaker, the Quran says, he doesn't care. Right? What the Quran says to us. We're operating on our own wavelength, and the country's lawmakers are on the other wavelength, and we just hope that they don't clash as much. Next. All right, one from is anime haram? To be honest with you, I never really knew much about anime, but I did read, I really didn't know what it was. Japanese cartoons, that's all I know. Right? But I did read, you can read about this yourself, that the original makers of anime, they had one goal in mind, was to get people to turn their backs on God. I don't know if it's true or not. You can go read about it yourself. I really don't know much about cartoons. I stopped watching cartoons when I was 6. What is the best way to gain motivation for praying 5 times a day? Very easy. Allah is very generous. He says, love me for the good things I've given you. Don't you have goals? Don't you have desires? Our love for the Creator can be with a selfish motivation. Our worship can be selfish. I'm worshiping God because I'm going to get something good out of it. What does Allah say about that? If you did that to a human, we would say, you're selfish, you're not my real friend. What does Allah say? You're a believer because you're showing faith. You're showing belief when you do that. You're obeying Him. So Allah accepts it. If your entire life, you would only say, oh Allah, well, to be honest, I'm only worshiping you because you have a lot of nice things. He will accept you, right? He will accept you because you're showing faith in Him. You don't talk to somebody you don't believe in, right? You don't expect gifts from somebody you don't believe in. You're showing a lot of faith. Allah accepts it. So isn't everybody here want something in life? And it's only like a shortcoming if all you ask for is this worldly life. So you should always ask for, oh Allah, grant me an upright faith and save me in the afterlife. And then you ask for things of this world. So you should always put your deen, which is your religion, and your faith, and your afterlife first. And then your worldly matters second. All right, next question. You have a question? Yes, there's a young man. Oh, there's up there. Okay. Yes, wa alaikum salam. No, she needs to get the mic. The mic might be off.
Assalamu alaikum.
Oh, salam.
So I want to ask, what do you do like when you're surrounded with so much haram and it's unavoidable? For like example, like school, you see like haram relationships, like inshallah, like you could switch and stuff, but like when it's unavoidable.
Here's the thing. Good question. Here's the thing.
And also my brother had a question related to it.
Sure. You want brother to ask a question first? Or? Okay. Here's the thing. Human being is not meant to believe one thing and constantly see the opposite. It's a tension that we're not meant to live in. This is not a healthy situation that we're in as Muslims. You're going to get stressed out. And that stress will affect your nerves. You can get nervous disorders, right? Like things like MS. These are diseases caused by stress. It's a great stress to say, I believe in Y, everyone's doing negative Y. As much as you can, pull yourself out of this environment. And don't let anyone, I don't want to live in a bubble. All right. Workout people, physical fitness types, who all of their clothes is like exercise clothes. All their food is perfectly healthy. Do they hang out with people who are slobs and sitting on the couch all day and eating candy? Do they hang out with those types of people? Or do they hang out with people who are going to motivate them, keep them going, and be physically fit? Right? People who care about wealth, moneymakers in this world, businessmen, the people who have cufflinks with their initials on it, and luxury cars and $5,000 suits. Do they hang out with the unemployed? Do they hang out with people with a negative attitude, oh, I'm poor and blah, blah, blah? Or do they hang out with other sharks, killers, and winners? They hang out with the people that increases what they love. So I would tell you, as much as you can, flee from the environment that is against what you believe in. And go to the environment and don't listen to anybody who says, oh, this is an echo chamber. Really? All the guys who work out hang out with other people who work out and nobody says it's an echo chamber. All the guys who lift, they're all hanging out with other guys who lift and they're always in the gym. And they're not in, let's say, eating competitions to say, let's be open-minded. No. So look at this logic. You're being presented with this trap only in the matter of deen and religion. But in all other walks of life, no one uses this logic. Oh, you want to go to law school. Well, why don't you hang out with illiterate people and be open-minded? Hang out with failures. Hang out with people who have no aim in life. Right? No. You want to go to law school, you hang out with other people who want to go to law school. You want to be rich, hang out with other people who are rich. Okay? You want to be a musician, hang out. We don't really necessarily maybe not do that, but you would hang out with other musicians. Okay? Put it another way, gay rights activists don't hang out with Protestants. Right? 5 minutes? Oh, it's just warming up. Okay. All right, here's a tough one. I have to take this because people ask these questions. Why is a woman's testimony less significant than a man's? Okay. You have to understand that Allah Ta'ala, He wants you in certain circumstances and doesn't want you in other circumstances. Where is a woman's testimony less significant than a man's is where He doesn't want her testimony to be the reason for a person's punishment. Where someone could lose their life in a capital crime. Murder. Okay? So that she doesn't have to go home, that her testimony is the reason the guy got killed. So He made it harder for her. All right? It has to be two. So at least you have a friend to do it. Wouldn't you like to have a friend? Right? Hey, we're going to go and prosecute. The guy's going to get killed. Let's do it together. Right? You would want to have a friend. I personally myself, if I go and I'm the only witness, I don't want to be the only witness, right? I would want someone to come with me, at least to make sure I'm doing this by myself, right? So Allah Ta'ala, He's forced a woman. You're going to go do it, you witness the murder, right? Bring someone else to witness it with you, so that you're not alone in this burden of that your word caused someone to die. That's the logic behind it. Now the opposite is the case. Where does Allah not want men to be? Around women that are having children, right? For example, a man is not supposed to be around women's pregnancy wards, right, where they're having children. So that his testimony of what the baby, back in the olden days, they used to have testimony. They didn't have DNA testing. So you have to testify which baby came out of which woman, right? So the two testimony of a man equal to one of a woman. Because he doesn't want you there. It's not your business to be seeing a woman. She's in a vulnerable situation. She's yelling and screaming and naked and having a baby and all that stuff. He doesn't want you there. So two testimony, the testimony is reversed in that case. One testimony of a woman's enough. So certain things he wants you there. Other things it's equal. Like what? Religious knowledge. Like hadith of the Prophet. Other things like financial documents. Financial documents, right? Non-criminal punishments. So the criminal punishment is two testimony for a woman because there's one of them. It's a stress. You say, oh, I can handle it. Well, your Creator's telling you He doesn't want you to handle this. He doesn't want you to handle the burden that you have a Creator who loves you. So why are you having this antagonistic attitude? He loves you. He doesn't want you handling the burden that your testimony caused the guy to be whipped, lashed, killed, all the strict and severe punishments that are in Islam. All right?
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu.
So my question is, what do you do when you feel like disconnected from Islam? And what I mean by that is, like whenever I watch a lecture or speech about Islam, I feel like not engaged in it. And more times than not, I don't feel like I can relate to what they're speaking about.
So you feel that you're saying, your question is that when you hear an Islamic lecture, you feel like disengaged?
Yeah, so like how do I become engaged with it again?
Okay. Was that like a 1-star review for this lecture too? Man, I thought we were doing good. I said to myself, you know, the measure, if they come back after the dinner, then we did okay in the first half. But I would say to you, maybe you keep company with people who put you on a different wavelength, right? Maybe your other things that you watch all the time are putting you on a different wavelength. I know many people here have listened to music, and the Sharia, we do have some rules on music. We're a little bit against some of the instruments completely. Some of them, there's some discussion, and some of them are okay. I guarantee you, if you were to sit there and listen to music for an hour while studying or something, and then you were immediately to get up and listen and open the Quran, your heart would be too rusty. You would not want to recite it anymore. You'd shut it after 2 minutes, 1 minute. Why? Because there's wavelengths and vibrations. So every matter related to God and His Prophet and the religion of Allah, it's a certain wavelength. Then there are things that are neutral and there are things that are contrary to that wavelength. So observe yourself. If you spend a lot of time on an opposite wavelength, then you will not find yourself having any interest in divine speech. That's my advice to you. Okay, that's the last question. Sorry for all there's 47 questions here. We only got to maybe 6 or 7, so sorry about that.
One last question. Is this? Okay. Being one of the first generational immigrants here in the United States, this is something which comes to mind, that whenever we talk to somebody who is older in age about raising Muslim children in the West, we hear whispers and things like, oh no, go back to Pakistan, where you have family, where you have sport, where there's more of a Muslim culture. and raise your children there rather than raising them here without any support. What's your advice on that? What's your take? And how do you suggest that good Muslims can be raised in a Western country? Thank you.
Well, if it is true that it's a person's culture is in another land, in another country, and they do have a lot of support there, then it's definitely something to take into consideration. It is something to take into consideration. But if that's not an option for a person, then it's the same rule. It's the company you keep. You can be in Las Vegas, and you can have good company, and you're fine. You're doing well. With your spirituality, with your deen. You can be in Mecca, al-Mukarram. You think everyone there is a saint? No, you're wrong. There's a lot of people who aren't, right? Okay. There's a lot of people who have never gone to the sacred mosque to pray. He lives there, right? You don't think there's internet there? You don't think there's pornography addiction there? Everything's everywhere. It's the company that you keep. If you're going to take one takeaway of our practice on this, it's the stuff that you put in your ears, through your eyes, what you watch on YouTube, on Instagram, okay? And the people that you hang out with, that's who you're going to be. If you want to be someone who has a healthy spirituality and love for God, surround yourself with those videos, those talks, those people. It doesn't matter where you are these days. The whole world has been shaken up, and we're all mixed now. So it's the company that you choose to keep. And that includes what you listen to and what you watch. Jazakumullah khairan, everybody. Thank you so much for having us. And sure.
So the Sheikh, I'm going to maybe put a couple announcements to the Sheikh and conclude with dua, inshallah. I'd just like to thank Kelly and Asim for Sayyid Yosef and again giving us a couple extra minutes. Round of applause for them.